living in Costa Rica, in between small towns, versus living in a country in Europe or North America or Canada, and there's so many big differences. Now, what made it for me that I decided to swap my modern city life, where I basically had everything that I always wanted, with living on the countryside in Costa Rica. Why makes living in Costa Rica me so happy? This is not specifically like a how-to video. This is really a personal video. And I decided to make this video because people ask me, like, what attracted you to Costa Rica countryside versus The Hague? Like, I come from a big beach town in an awesome country. So I'm gonna touch on that. Before I'm gonna do that, if you never met me before and never been to my channel that is dedicated to Costa Rica living, but also information for Costa Rica travelers, I think if you are a Costa Rica expat or Costa Rica expat wannabe, you can find a lot of valuable information. At least you have to decide for yourself, but at least you can discover my videos by subscribing and hitting the bell so you get notified every time I upload something new. And in a nutshell, who am I and why am I doing what I'm doing? Well, I made a very small video. I will show that to you first, and then I'm gonna dive right in. So funny enough, I ask myself the question, why did I swap my modern life in a city where a lot of museums and architecture and culture was in the Netherlands? And I've traveled the world and I've been in a lot of awesome big cities like New York, Barcelona, of course I know my old city Amsterdam, big capital cities in the world, Bangkok, you know, thriving big cities where I learned a lot. And now I live in Costa Rica where there is not so many museums compared to the big cities in the world. And a lot of people call Costa Rica a third world country, although I believe it's not a third world country, it's a second world country. A lot of things are good here, but I was watching an awesome Spanish Netflix series to practice my Spanish, and it was filmed in Bilbao, and that's a big city in Spain. And I noticed that my eyes were attracted to the beautiful architecture in that city, and to the museums. That it was a beautiful background in the whole series that reminded me of the things that we don't have here. I was a little bit distracted because my dogs, of course, just surrounded me. I was actually asking myself the question, am I really sure that I want to live where I live? Why do I like it so much here in Costa Rica to live? Living in Costa Rica really what I want? It's interesting, right? To sometimes have a dialogue with yourself. So I decided I'm going to share it with you. So the pros of living in Costa Rica for me where I live, let me just mention that first, is really having the experience that less is more, that we are outside of the consumption society. And yeah, you could compare that San Jose, when I am in San Jose, is that I'm deadly tired when I was in the mall in Escazú, for example. You know, sometimes we need stuff. When I need chargers and stuff, I go to San Jose, I go to Escazú. When I come back to my Airbnb, I'm so tired of all the shopping people around me and the energy that even gives me the feeling that I need everything, which is not the case. I don't know if you know part of my story, how I came to Costa Rica with my husband, Dirk, and 2 kids. We only brought each 2 suitcases and a backpack, and we brought a bike and our laptops, because we have our laptop businesses, right? We don't have to go to a job or a brick and mortar business. So that's a big freedom. That unlocked that that cut us from needing stuff to be happy. I wanted to give myself that experience, and I already knew, because I traveled the world with Dirk in about 1.5 years before we started a family, and we lived from a backpack not bigger than this, and still there were stuff in there that I never used, right? So you don't need that much. And what I love about my life, living in Costa Rica as an expat the way that I do, I just want to state very bold, it doesn't have to be your way. This is my chosen way. We live at the countryside. We bought a property with space, but there's not a super modern house on there. We decide, not that we cannot build it, we decided there's a big liability, right? There's an existing house. I'm sitting behind, in front of it. There's my office where I coach my students. By the way, for information, there is info in the description below my video. I coach people one-on-one to teach them how to build their online businesses, by the way, if you missed the other little video. But yeah, we used what was existing already on our property, and less is more is a big part of my vision. Now, I find that here, right? And if I think back to the Netherlands, where I come from, where I was born and raised, where I worked for 23 years, I remember that it was sucking me up, that all the concrete life kept me a stranger from nature. And here, I don't know if you don't see what I see. Let me show you. This is exactly what I see if I turn my screen. Here's my dog number 1. Here's the chair where my tripod is standing on. Here's dog number 2. I have a lot of green around me, and this is just a tiny bit of my property. This is close to the road, right? So this is what I see when I'm sitting in my office and I decide when I work. So it's really literally surrounded by green stuff, and often there's animals climbing, monkeys around me. That feeling, that being surrounded by green in between towns, makes me feel very happy compared to how I felt when I had more stuff, right? So it is really a question for you. What do you prefer? Do you value stuff a lot? Fancy clothes, high heels? Then I'm not sure if you should live here. But there's also another way of living in Costa Rica, and that is what I decided. I was chatting with Dirk about this, like, wow, I saw this series about, I was taken in Bilbao, and I actually sometimes think back and I miss wearing high heels and beautiful clothes that I had in the Netherlands, but it was not what I always wanted to wear. So then I just swapped my thoughts. How about I continue living here, which I really love, and just see it for myself, to strive to take more vacations once in a while, take an awesome Airbnb and go to Bilbao or go to Barcelona, or go to New York or San Francisco, or the big cities that I want to visit again, where there is a lot of musea, where there is a lot of culture, where I can go to the opera. That is not here, right? So if you are thinking about living in Costa Rica and you are on the fence and more or less are deciding not to do it because you think that you will miss all that I just mentioned, then realize that you can be living in Costa Rica on the countryside and just wearing a tiny dress and flip-flops and you know, live very rural and just go visit those cities whenever you prefer. And I hear you think, yeah, but you know, that costs money. I don't have that. Okay, but that's, if you park the money issue, the money blockade, just suppose that you would have enough to do all that. Would that be a way for you to be living in Costa Rica? Just for the fun things that you miss that we don't have here. It is limited with musea and culture and opera. It is just a fact, not to just spit on Costa Rica. It is how it is. It's different here. Here we have a lot of wildlife. You know, we don't have that in the Netherlands, yeah, in the zoo. So there's always pros and cons about living in Costa Rica. But this is just my there was a dialogue with myself, and I decided, heck, I'm so super happy here. The fact that this is my view, you know, this is my place where I work when I need to work and have concentration with my students. I do 80% of my business is automated, right? So, and still I don't do a lot of activities. It's not that I go zip lining every day or do tourist activities. I just live my life, and sometimes it's just sitting in my chair here or a chair somewhere else. We have little seats everywhere and just look at the trees and look for an hour about how the monkey families are swinging from tree to tree. And that is what I love so much about Costa Rica. If you live in these type of areas where we have trees with monkeys swinging from tree to tree, and you can discover a lot of birds. We have 52 colibris, bird species here. Just that's the tiny bird with a long mouth, flying really fast with the wings, and they kind of look like big, beautiful insects. That's what I love most about living in Costa Rica, and not in the world I would want to miss that with living in a big city, whether that is San Jose or where I come from, The Hague, Amsterdam, New York, you know, very modern Western city life. I love it to jump on my bike or to grab an Uber in a big city, beautiful outfit, but no, then I would miss this. So I decided I'm gonna live here this way, and when I wish for that, I'm just gonna look that up, I'm just gonna visit that, and this is a beautiful place to come home. How does that sound? You see, you don't need to make concessions. That is inevitable, that you have to miss totally everything there when you start doing this here. It can be combined. And with my one daughter kind of spreading her wings and flying out of her nest, I think this is the reason why I started to think about that. That my freedom as a individual, also I'm a mom, and I will always say a mom, and my youngest is still 12, so he will probably stick around for a little bit longer, but still with one child standing on her own legs, I think that's why my thoughts are going like, what do you really want, Muriel? Do you really want to keep on living on the countryside where you do? We came to Costa Rica to show our kids this type of life while they are growing up, so they don't get used to seeing monkeys in the zoo, but they know that monkeys do need to live in trees, in nature, right? So yeah, I hope to just somehow inspire you with this very personal video. It's my intention to share my thoughts, to help you make informed decisions, to help you in your orientation phase, in your move to being an expat in Costa Rica and living here. And I'm looking forward to reading your replies below. I really am, always, by the way. A little heads up, I have a book written, 7 Steps to Move to Costa Rica. So if you wonder which steps I took, I wrote it down. You see it in the description or in the comments below. And with that being said, looking forward meeting you one day in Costa Rica. Thanks for the thumbs up if you think that I deserve it, and the shares and the comments. And yeah, see you in my next video. Bye for now.